Hey everyone, let's talk about Syria. It's a place with a super long history, way older than you and me. For thousands of years, it was like a big meeting place for different groups of people. Empires came and went, each one leaving its mark. Think of it like building a sandcastle, then someone else comes and builds on top of it, and so on. A really important road, called the Silk Road, went right through Syria. It was like a superhighway connecting the east and the west. Big cities like Damascus, Aleppo and Palmyra were like giant truck stops on this road, bustling with traders. Lots of different people lived there. There weren't any lines on a map like we have today. Instead, big, powerful empires controlled huge areas of land. One of these empires, the Ottoman Empire, ruled Syria for a really long time. Things were pretty calm back then, with everyone speaking the same language and sharing the same culture. But like all empires, the Ottomans started to get weaker in the 1800s. Other countries in Europe saw this as a chance to take over. Britain and France really wanted the Middle East because it was so important. They made secret deals to split up the Ottoman Empire's land, like dividing a pizza without telling the person who made it. These secret deals would change Syria forever. Then World War I happened and everything changed. The Ottoman Empire joined Germany's side against Britain and France. During the war, Britain and France made a secret deal. Two guys, Mark Sykes and François-Georges Picot, made this agreement, so it's called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. They signed it in 1916. Basically, they drew lines on a map of the Middle East, like they were coloring, and decided who got what. They didn't really care about the people who lived there. They gave Syria and Lebanon to France, and Britain got Palestine and parts of Iraq. They kept this agreement a secret from the people who lived there. Imagine how you'd feel if someone decided what would happen to your house without telling you. This made people angry and distrustful, especially since they were promised freedom for helping fight against the Ottomans. The Sykes-Picot Agreement caused a lot of problems later on. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire fell apart. The winners of the war took control of the Ottoman lands. France took over Syria and Lebanon. This time is called the French Mandate, and it lasted from 1920 to 1946. The Syrian people didn't want to be ruled by France, so they fought back. There were lots of protests and fights. France tried to stay in control, sometimes using force. Even though they weren't wanted, the French changed Syria in many ways. They drew the borders of the country, mostly following the lines from the Sykes-Picot Agreement. They also set up the government, which still affects Syria today, so the French did some good things and some bad things. Gap 2. S. Finally, in 1946, France gave Syria its independence. But the borders they drew stayed the same. These borders didn't make sense for the people living there and caused lots of problems between different groups. It's like trying to put puzzle pieces together that don't fit. Because of this, Syria has had a hard time becoming a united country. The Syrian Civil War, which started in 2011, made these problems even worse. The borders of Syria, drawn by people who didn't live there, still affect the country today. It's important to know this history to understand why things are so complicated in Syria.